Good evening, everybody. You're, of course, at a meeting of the Rochester City School District Board of Education. Today is May the 14th, 2020. It is now 6:08 p.m. Welcome. I hope, on behalf of the board, we hope that everybody is well and safe. As you know, our nation, our state, our city is going through a crisis, but we're only as strong as a nation or a state and a city as we are individually. So if there's anything that the Rochester City School District or its Board of Education can do to support you and your individual strength or your family's collective strength, please let us know. I know it may not seem like it, but every one of us are here to serve you, especially here in this difficult time. So again, let me repeat on behalf of the Board of Education, if there's anything that we can do or any one of the thousands of members of our staff can do to assist you in your individual or collective strength, please let us know. We are here to at least try to help you. All right, the first item on our agenda, as always, is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like, please join me. There's a flag right here at my office, so I'm just going to stand and again, would encourage anybody else by sitting or standing to join me and the Board of Education in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, second item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. I have minutes from the March 31st, 2020 and April 2nd, 2020 meetings. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? I see Commissioner Malloy leaning towards her unmute button.
Motion.
That's been a motion by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. All those in favor of approving those minutes from March 31st and April the 2nd, 2020, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the ayes have it. We have no speakers, but our clerk would like to share an announcement with you all. You're muted.
Thank you very much, President White. I wanted to remind everyone that next Thursday we will be having the public hearing on school resource officers. You do have the opportunity to send your comments in writing and also sign up to speak during the Zoom meeting. If you're interested in submitting your comments in writing, Kalia is going to post that email. So you can send your comments to SRO Hearing Feedback at rcsdk12.org. And if you're interested in signing up to speak via our Zoom meeting, please send an email to boardofelducation@rcsdk12.org. I look forward to having people sign up. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, we want to encourage you all out there listening to actually come to the board meeting, at least virtually, and participate. And I also want, on behalf of the board, thank our staff. These meetings are run, I believe, at least in my observation, exceptionally well, and it is a result of our staff, the board staff doing its work, and also the exceptional work of the district staff and the communications department. They are top-notch. We have led the way in terms of this next generation communication with our constituents in our community. So we really want to the board really wants to show our appreciation for those folks that make this stuff happen 2-3 times a week and under the most difficult set of circumstances. So again, we appreciate you all for what you do for not only the board and the district, but for the citizens of Rochester. Next item on our agenda are advisory council reports, and I am told we have none. That's to be expected. This is a difficult and challenging time for many of our advisory groups that do work very diligently to keep us, that is the Board of Education, informed with respect to what is happening in various communities. We have the Bilingual Council and we have the Parent Advisory Council. We look forward to hearing from them when things sort of settle down a bit. There are no board reports, just so that you folks know. The Board of Education, led by our 7 commissioners, is split up into a number of different committees, including finance, intergovernmental relations. Let's see if I can get them on. You guys will correct me if I miss something. Let's see, finance, intergovernmental relations. What else am I missing? Help me out, guys.
Policy.
Policy, yeah.
Governance.
Governance,
Mhm.
keep going.
Audit.
Audit.
Finance.
And human resources.
I think that was one of the first ones I got, Ricardo. So Committee on Intergovernmental Relations. So
Human
we have,
resources.
what's that?
Human resources, if you didn't state it.
Yes, thank you. I did not state that. That's Vice President Elliot's committee. So we have a number of committees that usually report out probably every other meeting and tell the community what is going on in those specific areas. I also know, for example, that Commissioner Adams and others have been expressly interested in making sure that citizens are part of those committees. Several years ago, we made a decision as a board to make sure that a parent was involved in each of those committees. COVID has sort of made that a bit of a challenge, but we promise you all, and we promise Commissioner Adams, who has really pushed that issue, that we will make sure that we go back to that practice as soon as COVID allows us to. So just be patient. We do understand that's a critical piece of our committee structure.
Actually, President White?
Yes.
On the parent participation, if parents are interested, they can sign up, submit their information.
There you go.
As soon as we're able to go back to working together, we are going to have the summer to provide training, and starting next school year, parent reps will be on all board committees.
Excellent. So where would someone sign up? Would they do it digitally or call in? What would they do?
They can go onto the web, and in the Board of Education page, they will find the information for the parent reps on the different committees. And there's information that we're asking for them to provide, and they can do all of that electronically.
Excellent. All right, we hope, yes.
Commissioner Powell here.
Yep.
The Audit Committee is also looking for a community member. It's not limited to a parent, but they do need to have some financial background, either CPA or financial planner or some other financial credential behind their name. And we look forward to any resumes we might receive for the Audit Committee.
Thank you. I should tell my colleagues that I'm trying to shift back and forth between screens right now. I do not have the screen up that calls for participants to raise their hands. Until we get to the point of resolutions, just shout out, say, Van, there's something I want to say. When we get to that portion of the agenda, which is Roman numeral number 7, consideration of resolutions, I'll switch to that portion of the screen that allows me to see people raise their hands. And at that point, I'd appreciate it if you wanted to say something, just raise your hand. All right, well, that's good news. We have a committee structure, as I indicated, and we intend, when COVID is over the next school year, to make sure that all of our committees are staffed by parents. Next item on the agenda, boy, we're moving right along here, is the East EPO Superintendent Report. I think I saw Dr. Nelm's screen, so I assume he's there. Dr. Nelms, are you around?
Yep. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, we have a very short presentation tonight. I think you guys heard a lot from me the last few weeks in the community, so we wanted to highlight some of the things that are happening relative to getting ready for graduation and end of the year, as well as show a recent video from a newscast about the last days of school. We are in the process of surveying our juniors and seniors, mostly our seniors, to see if there's interest to have a virtual prom. We will work with a local DJ, Big Reg, for those who know him in the community, who's been around for a long time, to have the kids Zoom in virtually and see if they want to dance and hang out with their friends and do little watch parties. Right now, the students are kind of iffy on it, because you can't dance by yourself in the room, even though many of us do it every Saturday and Sunday night. But we're going to see if we can do something for them that allows them to have some sort of experience with the prom. This is one idea. And so this slide is for our East family, our students, scholars, to ask them to pay attention to the emails from your senior class advisors. And if there is interest, we will put something together for you all and all students throughout RCSD who are interested. And if not, we'll give us some suggestions of how you may want to gather socially without being in the same room, and try to utilize technology to bring kids back together. Kids are saying they miss their friends and they want to be together. So we're trying to find some unique ways of getting these kids together. The next slide is our graduation plans. We're still developing those. We're looking at several different options. We're working with the Monroe County superintendents also and looking at their ideas and see if we can steal that's working. I saw a really cool idea in East Irondequoit today where they had big monitors or some type of projections in all the high school windows and had the kids' faces scrolling there. Currently, we are highlighting seniors every single day on Facebook and Twitter. So for those who want to leave a message for our graduating seniors, please do so. There's a picture of the student and then a bio and some reflections from those students. And that's been running for about 2 weeks now. So I'm encouraging the community and for the board to log in, go onto the East website for East Facebook page or the Twitter page or Instagram as well. You can leave a message just wishing the kids well and them on their journey. I want to thank the RCSD's team last week. I think Glenn Vanderwater talked about signs and lawn signs. Unfortunately, we had already ordered ours, so we can't take advantage of the discount. But I will say that it'll be great. I was driving through neighborhoods today and I saw yard signs from all types of schools already from around the county, and so it'll be really good to see RCSD kids represented on lawns throughout our community. And it'd be kind of cool to see which schools kids go to as you travel through to see how many kids from the same neighborhood go to different schools or same schools. So this is an image of our class of 2020 sign and poster, and I think they're being delivered this week, and they'll start to go out and be delivered next week. So it's great that we're all thinking about some of the same ideas for honoring our students. I also shared with the board, I believe Commissioner Elliott spoke last week about what our kids asking a question, how are kids voicing their concerns or their lives while living through COVID-19 and the quarantine. So I shared this with the board. This is our Eagle Express newsletter. Students, this is I think their 9th or 8th issue of this year, but students had already shared their thoughts around the quarantine, and I encourage the board to take a look at it. The kids have a very unique perspective. They're not all seniors. They're kids who ranged grades 9 through 12, but their writing is really improved, and they write about a host of issues. One of the best articles I read is when they forced us to change how we organize the cafeteria, the food and offerings. And so these kids truly have voice, and the adults read their voices. They're not censored, and they tell us exactly how they feel. But this article, magazine newsletter, I should say, is very special because it's very touching how kids are reflecting on living through this time and some of these social emotional issues. And then you'll see along the left side, Ms. Conway and her team has shared resources for teens and parents who are dealing with a number of issues, from social emotional supports to digital learning. So I encourage the board to take a look. And again, if there are notes you want to share with the authors of this newsletter, feel free to do so. You can email me and I can share it directly with the teacher or the students themselves. All of our students have Google accounts, so we can share it with them directly if you are so inclined. I also want to make mention and thank the University of Rochester for working with East to create an article or to write an article that was published recently in School Administrator Magazine about cyberbullying. It's really, the article is about cyberbullying, but it touches on a number of social emotional supports that are provided for students and staff to build very strong and caring relationships so that students are able to report out on bullying. Maybe it's not being done to them, but they may be living it vicariously. It could be happening to their peers, and just the idea of building family within schools so that bullying can no longer take place or be minimized. And so I've also shared that article with the board. The article is also on the East website for those in the community who like to read a little bit more about it. We've also tweeted and posted it on the East Facebook page and Twitter. And I'm really proud to say that one of the advantages of COVID is the use of technology. And for our parents and our family and community engagement team, this is our version of school-based planning. But you can see this is a host of parents and teachers and staff and community members. This is the typical size of a meeting. And it's a lot more folks who engage in other ways, but these meetings have continued, and technology has really brought additional people to the table because of the flexibility of time. And so we're learning that perhaps some of these parent meetings may best be served virtually to save parents from leaving dinner and driving to a school, but providing both options. We're seeing the same level of support and increased engagement by using Zoom and other platforms for these virtual family and community engagement meetings. So to our parents and community members, keep plugging in and continue to share your thoughts virtually with the family and community engagement. And this work is being led by Lorna Washington, and I really thank her for increasing this. When we first got to East, there was one parent on PTA. And so this is an incredible shift and transition over the 5 years. And then the last thing I want to share with you is we were fortunate to have the news come out and do a Spectrum to come out and do a story about the end of school. I had a chance to walk the building today, and it's eerie. If you walk these quiet halls and furniture's in the hallways and no students, it's eerie when you just see these empty halls. And we followed, they followed one of our students here, amazing student, and I think it was important to kind of share her story from Spectrum's perspective. So Callie, if you can play that, that'd be great.
One second, I'm just gonna pull it up now, okay? Hold on. Oop. Having some technical difficulties. Give me 1 second.
And if you can't get it, Callie, we can just share it in the board minutes, and folks can log in. But I think it's a really I thought Spectrum did a great job with capturing the stillness of school and the perspective of a student who's going through this and transitioning. She starts by saying, you know, she just had found out before COVID that she had made the softball team. And so her mind before the pandemic was softball, ending her junior year, moving forward, and how it shifted. So if Kelly can't bring that up, we'll just go back to the PowerPoint and move on with the meeting.
If you can, please try to do it, because the reality is many people probably who are watching this won't go and click it on someplace else. So if you can get it going, that would be great. We have a few extra minutes, so.
All right, good.
I'm trying, it's just the sound. I think that's where we're having the issue. I can show it, but it won't play sound.
Is there any way Tom can help out in that, or it's just your end?
Tom, let me know.
She'd have to change the Zoom setting on her end to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have it selected on our end too. So my apologies, Sean.
We will work on that if we continue painting, and then if closer towards the end we can roll back to it. Sean, is that okay?
That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I didn't know there was sound and or video, so I'm just gonna work on that while we President White, if you want to move on to the next.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you very
You
much.
want to finish the presentation, Superintendent Nelms?
I think there's just one more slide that pretty much says
Okay.
thank you. So I think we're all set.
Okay, let me put that back up. I think that was it.
That was it. Yep, that was it. That's my report. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any questions for Dr. Nelms? Dr. Nelms, I neglected, and I'll say this publicly, this is a public apology. When I went through the list of people, because we were so focused on the board and the district's overall budget, I neglected to mention all the great work that you, Carlene, Lorna, and the folks at East High School and the staff members there contributed to that resolution of the budget. Again, I apologize to the folks at East because we were focused on the overall budget. But that overall budget, as I've repeatedly said to everybody else, does include East High School. They are not, you guys are not a charter school. You're not a private school. You are part of the Rochester City School District family. So don't attribute it to the board. This one, usually I speak on behalf of the board and usually it's with thanks. This apology, I have to own myself. Afterwards, I kick myself many times for not including you all in the thanks, but at least you get a moment on this particular day to yourselves to recognize the good work, the compromise, the collaboration that you all showed to help us get to the finish line. It is, I can say this on behalf of the board, it is truly appreciated, Dr. Nelms, the work that you all showed to help us come up with a balanced budget. So thank you, and thank you again. I appreciate you.
You're welcome, and I'll be honest, I didn't notice. so it wasn't anything that I noticed. And like I said to you, I thought it was a really, really good process, a lot of great questions. I think Commissioner LeBron did a really good job of organizing those meetings, and I really appreciated the transparency that that resulted from this whole process. I'm looking forward to doing it again next year.
Thank you.
No, I'm not. I'm actually not.
Let's hope this is the only time we have to go through this. And by the way, there is good news. I'll share it in new business in terms of potential resources, which many of you may already know about. All right, next item on the agenda is the consideration of resolutions. Now, I usually ask at this particular point if there's any of those resolutions that we have to go into executive session on, just to sort of get them out of the way in advance. So I'll ask again, are there any of the resolutions that we're about to cover that anybody thinks will need to go into executive session? Anybody? I'm looking, I'm listening. I don't hear anybody say that. So it's not that you can't ask for it later on, but just like to get that out of the way if I can up front. All right, so I need a motion to discuss resolution 888. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Been made by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
I think I heard Commissioner LeBron first. All right, any conversation, questions, or concerns regarding resolution 888? I see no and hear no questions or comments regarding resolution 888. All those in favor of resolution 888 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Madam Clerk, I believe the ayes have it. Resolution 888 passes.
That is
Next
correct, President White. However, I will ask all board members to please come on screen. And when you ask for your vote, Tom will put the Brady Bunch screen on so I can see everybody. We have to have physical confirmation.
So what she's saying to everybody else there listening is we don't need a roll call vote, but because our rules do require that if we're going to do this digital kind of town meeting, you have to be able to see people and hear them at the same time. So that's why she asks when we call for a vote that everybody at least have their visual there. All right, so.
Then why do you want to redo the vote then?
That's probably a wise idea, just to be cautious about it. All those in favor of resolution 888 say aye.
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 All right, Madam Clerk, you're watching.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Shepard, did you say aye? I see you, but okay, all right. So you're all set. Madam
you.
Clerk, I'll leave it up to you to make sure you got the right visuals. My eyes are kind of old. They don't work as quickly as yours do. So next item on the agenda is I need a motion to discuss resolution 894. Is there a motion? I heard Commissioner LeBron move it. Is there a second?
Seconded.
I hear Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments regarding resolution 894?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner LeBron.
Yeah, so my only question around 894, and I did read the justification that school's not in session right now, so they're asking to extend this contract that was originally voted on in February to the end of August. But I just had one, we don't know when schools are going to be reopened again. And two, I guess my question is really on how the impact of the budget would be around that. So this money is budgeted in the 2021 budget year, and then would it just transfer over into, because it starts July 1, we start a new budget year. So I'm kind of confused as to how this is going to be over 2 budget years for the same contract, and why we wouldn't just allow it to be absorbed into this contract, this budget year, and July 1 have a new resolution with new dates when schools open.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deetra, I thought I know who was.
No, I'm sorry, that was it.
That's right. I'm sorry. Carly, you want to answer that question? I know that the books close at the end of the summer, even for the current school year, but I'll let Carleen just clarify that.
Right. So in this particular case, we did want to extend the contract through till the grant end period. And so again, this is going to be grant funded. If it happens, Commissioner LeBron. It's always, it behooves us, I should say, to fully expend monies underneath the grant. This actually will extend, it will just be for the 1920 school year underneath this portion of the grant. So it's not that it's extending into 2021 under the grant. The grant will allow it to be expended during that period of time should we resume classes and services.
So I guess my follow-up to that then is if it's going to, it's the 1920 budget and our new budget cycle begins July 1 and this grant is the resolution acts is for the contract to extend to August 31st. And if that money is not used, so I want to say I do know like it's best to use grant funds, especially in the services, but if we're not able to link students with the services because we're not open, what happens to that funding?
If we don't use it at all, the funding rolls back and I would have to write an amendment to the state asking for a reallocation of those funds that we had put aside for this, which is not a problem. We can certainly do that. And just so that you know, the state did decide to roll many of their grants forward to extend the expiration date just because of COVID-19 with the understanding that services could not be delivered as originally agreed upon. So we have many options and I think we will be well positioned. Again, we were just trying to be prudent in making sure that our expiration dates aligned and that we were giving the contract our best effort because of the value it brings to our scholars. So I think we're well positioned to move forward and rest assured I'll be right on top of it to make sure that if it doesn't happen, we will have reallocation because we never like leaving any money on the table.
Okay. So I just want to let you guys know I'm not going to be supporting the resolutions and I gave the district the same reasonings that we should not be voting on resolutions without having even a plan to open schools for right now. So, and for me, the governor just said this week that he didn't even know schools are going to be open by September. And I have some real concerns about how we're going to open safely. So I just want to put that out there. But I appreciate explaining that it's going to be over 2 different budget cycles and that the state extended the timeline for the grants and the funding. And that's it for me.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments regarding Resolution 894? There being none, let's go ahead and take a vote. Make sure your monitor is on so that our clerk can see you. All those in favor of Resolution 894, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't see, I only heard Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Malloy, myself.
Vice President Elliott, I can see everyone and I
Okay.
need Commissioner Shepherd to come on.
Shepherd, yep. Commissioner Shepherd, can you hear us?
Actually, I think she may have lost connection, so she's
Okay.
probably going to be signing back on.
All right, so what was the current vote? Was it, did I hear 4 yeses?
4 yeses, that is correct. And
Well-
Commissioner LeBron has to vote.
I'm a no.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, next item on the agenda is Resolution 894. If you folks will give me just 1 second, I'm texting a colleague. Give me 1 second. All right, so having sent that text to a colleague of ours, I just wanted to call for a conversation on Resolution 895. Is there a motion to discuss Resolution 895?
Motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 895? I don't see any and I don't hear any. So that being the case, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Please make sure your monitors are on if you're here. All those in favor of Resolution 895, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Madam Clerk, I heard 3 ayes or saw 3 ayes. You got 5?
Aye.
All right, so long as you see them, that's what counts. All right, any nays?
Nay.
And 1 nay.
4.
All right, that's 4.
That is correct.
That's, yes.
Can I just
Commissioner-
ask how Marisol is seeing 5 people? Because I don't see Commissioner Shepherd on the call. And I also don't see Commissioner Elliott on the call. I see Will is muted, but I could see her lips moving, saying aye.
Commissioner LeBron,
So
I thought
wouldn't
you
understand
nodded.
how you got 5 ayes.
no. I thought I saw you nod.
Oh, yeah.
That's
no,
why I
I'm
thought
not.
it was 5. Okay.
Okay.
So the
We're
4
good.
would be Commissioner Adams, myself, Commissioner Malloy, and Commissioner Powell.
That is correct.
All right, and we're not counting Commissioner Shepherd or Vice President Elliott because they're not on
They're
this.
not here.
I'm not here.
All right, next item on the agenda is Resolution 896. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Is there a second?
Seconded.
That's Commissioner Malloy. That particular resolution is now on the floor. Is there any questions or comments regarding Resolution 896? I don't see any. All those in favor of Resolution 896, therefore indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seems that the ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
The ayes have it.
The ayes have it. That resolution passes. Next, we have Resolution 897. Is there a motion to move Resolution 897 onto the floor for conversation?
So moved.
Commissioner Malloy has moved it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Any questions or conversations regarding Resolution 897?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to reiterate what I mentioned yesterday in the city council meeting, that we were hearing for the first time that one of the school buildings that's getting closed is going to be repurposed. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally do not like to hear information from administration to city council before it gets conversed back to the board or shared with us. And I'm also concerned about any budget implications that they're mentioning in terms of a lease being closed off in one portion. We have no idea, and we don't know what the value of that lease is in comparison to keeping the building open and operational. I certainly am not opposing that we repurpose buildings that we're closing. We've had these conversations multiple times, but I do think that it's frustrating to me primarily because we have no idea what the budget implication is going to be on this decision. And so I will not be supporting 897 and 898, which are both coincide with the same conversations. And I wanted to give a rationale as to why on record. That's it.
Linda, are you there? Deputy Superintendent Quick, are you there?
I am.
Yep. Could you provide some context for what happened yesterday and explain to the full board what was intended and what happened?
Sure, and if I can go back and first apologize if there's some miscommunication or misinformation, but let me try and go back to mid-April, April 14th, and try and go through a little bit of a chronology and what has happened since April 14th. First, I would point out, however, earlier today, we had put together for you a little bit of a spreadsheet of all of the buildings and the programs, the moves, the changes, the swing spaces, everything that is going to happen from this year to next year to try and map it out for you in a visual way. So I hope that you did receive that and can take a look at it. It does kind of plot all of the building changes and shifts as well as, again, program shifts. But on April 14th, going back to School 20, as of April 14th, when the revised budget proposal was provided, School 20 was part of the closures that was presented in that revised budget draft. along with School 43 and School 3. The intention at that time, as we identified it, was that 20, we would close it and turn it back over to the city. After April 14th, we learned the following week that we had an issue at School 25. And we informed the board on April 23rd in that meeting that we had significant damage at 25 and that we were in the process of assessing the degree of the damage and the long-term use for that building. We knew we couldn't reopen it for the remainder of 1920, and we were assessing it for the following school year. So from April 23rd forward, during the following week of April 25th to April 29th, we came back with some revised budget presentations to you. And we had asked our team to go back and assess the leases for our spaces that we had to try and recoup some additional funds to address budget priorities that have been identified. And in doing so, we looked at 2 leases, and you have the leases on your building transition form that was sent out earlier as well. The 2 leases that we looked at in particular were the Blessed Sacrament lease, where New Beginnings was housed, and the east side of Hart Street lease, where we hold our discipline hearings for students. Our central CSC is located there, and some other special ed support teams. So we took a look at both of those leases and decided that it would be to our benefit to terminate those leases and not pay them out anymore. But we would have to relocate programs and offices from the east side of Hart Street to the west side in order to do that. Simultaneously, as you know in our budget proposals, North Star, currently located at Hart Street, needed additional space to house the returning students from BOCES. So in a conversation with Mike Schmidt, Ruth Turner, Keisha Morgan, it was identified we needed a minimum of 7 classrooms to house those students. So that team went out and looked at sites to discuss what would be the best location to house those students and to accommodate the space needs that we had. In looking at the building last week, the team decided that School 20 would be the ideal space to house the North Star program. And that's how we arrived at that decision. It has the right amount of space, and we felt that that would be a good location. I believe simultaneously, in maybe in previous discussions, when we looked at the CBO conversation last week and going to 1 CBO, we also had identified that School 57 would be used as an ideal space to house special ed offices and staff and to hold CSE meetings in the special ed department. So that's a little bit of a chronology of what has happened in the last month. I would say that it's been a really fluid month. There have been a lot of moving parts as we have dealt with the budget deficit, that we've been trying to find expenditure cuts and revenue sources. So the termination of leases was a very recent event to try and generate money for us. We were dealing with damaged buildings in 25. We were trying to relocate and absorb staff from programs and schools and maximize efficiencies all at the same time. So it was a very fluid situation. With regard to the board's involvement, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe in the past the board has approved building locations, swing space locations. If I've missed that, then please let me know. But again, we've been working on this pretty fluently in the last 2 to 3 weeks, trying to make all these moving parts work. So that's kind of a chronology, and if you have any questions, please let us know.
Commissioner LeBron, do you want to follow up on that?
I do. So we had a meeting on Tuesday, and all of that information could have been shared on Tuesday versus the board finding out live at a city council meeting. In addition, there are parts of that that you just mentioned, Linda, that the board does have to approve through a resolution, which is partly why there's resolutions tonight with those details in there. And I did go through the changes and the moving changes and the documents that were all submitted today, but that is a day after the city council meeting. And so, you know, the board as an obligation to understand if we're breaking a lease, if there's consequences to that. In the past, we have received legal counsel around those type of decisions, if we're getting out of a lease versus breaking it. And all of these decisions ultimately do end up through a resolution for the board. And I just want to put it out there. So I'm not supporting these resolutions, but I also don't support finding out information after administration has made a decision that the board will be held accountable for if there are complications with those decisions.
Does anybody else want to be heard on the subject? I would just note that I too would have liked to have known in advance, but under the circumstances, I understand what would have prevented someone who in her team that was so extensively involved in trying to fill in a huge void in leadership, and also simultaneously responding to the repeated demands, legitimate, by the way, demands of the members of the Board of Education to address our concerns and our priorities about the future of this district and the needs of our children and families. Doing that simultaneously, I would describe as a Herculean task. And sometimes when that happens, and it's not anything to be proud of, but I certainly have experienced it many times in my career on the district and as a lawyer, and I'm sure many of you have as well. Sometimes when you're doing so many things at the request of others, sometimes you miss some stuff. And so, yes, I was as surprised as others, but again, I emphasize in this context, it is understandable, at least from my perspective. And I would reiterate to Deputy Superintendent Quick and her team my comments of last week. And I think I say this on behalf of the board. You have our appreciation and thanks, even in the context of a mistake that was inadvertent and clearly unintentional in terms of informing the board. But it's a mistake that I think we can rectify, and people have an opportunity tonight to indicate whether they support the change as reflected in the resolution. So
Van, I just have to say though, it's not just a simple decision. Anything that has or can have potential financial implications is exactly why we should be paying attention and questioning these things. So I hear what you're saying, that sometimes information falls through the crack, but it should not be allowed to be information that can have some serious consequences.
I'm saying that it should not be, but sometimes in the reality of responding to our demands, and again, let me emphasize, our demands would include yours, Commissioner LeBron's, and a number of other people that reflect the legitimate needs of our community members that we did say something about, and they did pay attention to, and they did redirect resources to those needs. They just didn't, I would agree with you, provide notice on this particular issue. But here again, there's opportunity to rectify it. If somebody doesn't like, and we'll find out in a few moments what happened in terms of the notice to the board, there's an opportunity to correct that. I'm sure I've dealt with many of the people over at City Council. They have had opportunities where people have, again, all of us are human. Mistakes in terms of notice happen. I'm not excusing it, but it's just a reality. And the fact is, right now, we have a chance to correct that. And the other thing that I was saying is that while it must be concluded that they didn't provide information for us on this particular important issue, there were a number of other important issues that they listened to us, community issues that were equally significant, that they listened to us and they responded. Doesn't mitigate at all what happened here, but I'm just saying things have to be put in context. So anybody else want to be heard? All right, so that's resolution 897. Why don't we go ahead and make sure our visuals are on, and we'll take a vote. All those in favor of resolution 897 indicate so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think I see 4 ayes and any nays?
Nay.
1 nay. And that means resolution 897 passes. We did sort of have a conversation a bit about resolution 898, but I need to get the resolution on the floor. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Any questions or comments other than what we've already heard regarding resolution 898? I see no one indicating they want to make comment, no questions about that resolution. So we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of resolution 898, make sure your video is on and indicate by saying or nodding yes.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. I count 4 yays and 1 nay. So the ayes have it. And finally, Resolution 899. Is there a motion to discuss Resolution 899?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Is there a second to that motion? Come on, guys. I know you don't want to be on here long. Thank you. I'll take that one from Commissioner Powell since she leaned over. And by the way, she continues to have her screen, but I got it your back screen there. But Dr. Nelms, I think, had a screen. I don't know what they're called, backdrop screens. That was better than your
virtual background. Yes.
I like that, Dr. Nelms. That's pretty impressive. All right. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 899? There being no questions or comments, all those in favor of Resolution 899, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. That would lead us to unfinished business. The only unfinished business that I have to offer is, I would remind people that we are not out of the woods in terms of COVID-19. There's still a lot of great work being done by members of our staff and throughout this community. Earlier on, we haven't done one in the last few meetings. The board began a process of identifying heroes of hope. If anybody out there knows of a staff member or even anybody in the community who is serving our community in these very difficult times, please call, I hate to do this, Francine, but I think she'll be okay, 262-8525. Is that okay, Madam Clerk, if I give out Francine's number? It was too late.
You already did, so.
All right, please call that number if you have a hero of hope, somebody who's made a difference anyway, anyhow, helping folks get through this very difficult time, whether it relates to the district or even some other governmental agency or nonprofit organization. If you help children and families, you are helping the Rochester City School District. We have repeatedly said as a board, we cannot do this on our own. We need the help of other folks. So it doesn't have to involve getting children books or backpacks or anything like that. If you're out there helping people get through this very difficult time, we appreciate you and we want to recognize you. So please call 262-8525 because the Board of Education wants to recognize heroes in our community. I think, lady, oh, I did want to say in the new business, and then I'll ask if there's any new business from anybody else. The good news is I know my colleagues have filed this, but I want to make sure that people out there in the community are aware of this as well. Fortunately, there are many levels of government who understand that the district cannot do it on its own. People want to blame us for everything bad that is happening in the district and outside the district. Of course, that is not true. There's a number of levels of government that participate in making this community, this state, and this nation better. Fortunately, we have such people in Washington. My colleagues are well aware that there is what I think is CARES Act 3.0. There's significant conversations in the Congress to support additional funding. And the reason why my colleagues and I know this is very important is because the governor has talked about mid-year cuts. So we've just put out a budget based on what they said they were going to give us. The governor is talking about the real possibility that he might have to take some of that money back. That would be very difficult. And the reason why the governor is talking about doing that is because he's saying COVID has really put him in a tough spot. If they pass this bill in Washington to give localities like the city, like the state, more money, the governor will have less reason to take money back from us. So we're hoping and praying that you all get behind that effort. In addition, my understanding and speaking to the folks with the Council of Great City Schools, which this board is a part of, they're advocating aggressively for dollars in that latest version for school districts as well. So we could get some additional funds that would help us stay on a financial footing so that we don't get ourselves in a position like we were this year. That's my good news. That's my new business. Anybody else have any good news or new business that they want to share? I guess not. All right, then there is no reason to go into, yes, ma'am.
I just have a quick question regarding bell schedules for next year. I'm wondering if anyone can talk about that. Is that a district-wide move? A lot of parents have been questioning recently just the new bell schedules. And I know that a lot depends on reentry with the situation that we're currently in. But can anyone speak to that?
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Later this week, there will be communications going out to all of our buildings with regard to the new bell schedules, and just making sure that parents are well communicated with and know now what's coming for this coming fall. So those communications are being prepared right now, and we can certainly provide you a copy of the bell schedules. It'll be posted on our website, but we'll make sure that you get that communication as well.
Mr. President, I know that the bell schedule was more relevant to our budget insofar as it affected our elementary schools, but I know SOTA had made a decision to do a later start time, and I can tell you that my son is delighted at that. He's been pushing for later start times for high schools in general, but his in particular, for a long time. So, and according to all the science, it's the sound and correct thing to do for all high schools.
So just so I understand clearly, sorry, the new schedule at SOTA does not apply citywide?
We have an early and a late start time, so we'll make sure that you understand which schools are in which schedule. We'll send that list out to you so you have it.
Okay, so it's not that, I mean, some high schools will be starting earlier than other high schools.
Yes.
All right, I'm sorry, I was under the, I guess I misunderstood. I thought that the SOTA start time was for all of our high schools in the district. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Adams, you look like you were going to say something a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I was just going to give a real shout out to a real hero of hope by the name of Jeffrey Reese. He got released from the hospital last weekend. He was feeding our students and he got very sick. And he was on a ventilator and everything with the COVID thing.
Oh, wow.
He's been a very active person in our community, running soccer teams and everything down the years. And I just had to acknowledge that brother, man. He's a good brother. He's been there for our students all down the picture. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him.
You know, that's the kind of hero of hope that we need to hear about. It can be an individual. And by the way, I would remind my colleagues, as is always the case when we did the Yes We Can Award, you can do just what Commissioner Adams did, which is it'd be better if we had a photo of this brother and to talk about him, but you can make the presentation yourself. This Heroes of Hope is best described by people who know them best. So I would encourage any one of my colleagues, and you know, we've always done it that way. It can be someone from one of your schools. It can be someone who you know personally, but that's an inspiring story, Commissioner Adams, which I had no idea about this person. And people need to hear that because you don't have to, as I say, you don't have to have a cape, you don't have to have money, but you just have to have some level of commitment, and that's how our schools get better. So thank you, Commissioner Adams. And again, I would encourage anybody out there, if you know somebody who has stood in that gap, like we've seen from our team at 131 West Broad Street and throughout the district, please put their name forward. We would appreciate it. I was told by Kalia Wade, who works really hard to make sure things go right, and 9 times out of 10 they do go right during these meetings, but Dr. Nelms or Sean, she was not able to get that video going, and she promises to make sure that between her and Tom, we see that video at our next board meeting. Is that good?
That's perfect.
All right. Any other good news? How you doing, Vice President Elliott? We know you got responsibilities throughout the community, so we're glad to see you. You're muted.
They working me like a Hebrew slave. A Hebrew slave.
Listen, the thing I wanted to say to you is, you know what time it is, right?
What time is it?
Look at the time. Steve, where are you?
Over?
We're almost over.
I missed Dr. Nelms' presentation and all
yes,
of that.
you did. Yes, you did.
Leanne,
oh, look at you, Beatrice. You're just trying to string
I
this
have
thing
my hand
along.
raised. I have my
Okay,
hand
all right.
raised. You were
She tried to
ignoring
help
that
you.
whole
You
system.
tried to help me.
Go ahead, Commissioner
So
LeBron.
I just want to let you guys all know that I did request bell times, and the schedule and administration did provide that today in the board question log for elementaries and high schools. So we already have that information. It's in our email. So I just want to put that out there because that is a question that many parents have reached out and asked about. So I'm glad to hear they're going to send it out to parents, but I'm also going to share it on social media.
All right. Any other comments?
I just want to say happy 13th birthday to my son. His birthday is today, so.
All right. All right.
Oh, I have a birthday girl too, my Abigail.
Okay.
22 today.
All right.
Happy birthday. Y'all want me to sing a Stevie Wonder's version? No.
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 No, thank you, Mr. White. It
He
is
just
time for
turned
adjournment.
70.
Thank you very much.
You heard me, man?
What's
He just turned 70.
Who did?
Stevie. His
Stevie
birthday
did?
was this week.
Stevie Wonder?
Yep,
Wow.
turned 70.
Y'all ever notice he got a hairline like mine? The
We
brain
ain't gonna
start
talk
way
about
back
that.
here.
Let's just leave that alone.
President White, please adjourn the meeting.
Okay, all right. All right, listen, I need a motion. Is that Vice President Ellie, is that a motion to adjourn?
Yes, it
Is
is.
there a second?
Stop.
I heard Commissioner Adams say second. All those in favor of adjourning indicate so by saying good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.